Today we are going to talk about the law of attraction and the law of assumption. But before we do, I want to invite you to question something that most people in this community never question. What if these are not actually separate laws at all? What if law of attraction, law of assumption are simply labels created by the human mind in its attempt to understand something much larger than itself, let's say? The character has a tendency to divide reality into categories. It names things, separates things, and creates concepts so that it can make sense of its experience. But reality itself is not divided, my love. Reality doesn't have labels attached to it. Reality doesn't call itself the law of attraction. Reality doesn't call itself the law of assumption. Those are names given from a limited human perspective. They are attempts to describe the same underlying phenomenon from different angles. Let me explain it to you. Imagine a mountain being viewed from different sides. One person describes the northern face, another describes the southern face. Both descriptions may appear different, yet they are talking about the same mountain. So in a similar way, many of the so-called manifestation laws may simply be different descriptions of the relationship between consciousness and experience. However, if we want to discuss these terms as they are commonly understood within this manifestation community, there are some distinctions worth exploring. So the law of attraction is generally described as the idea that your dominant thoughts, emotions, beliefs, energetic state attract experiences that match them. In simple terms, like attracts like. If you consistently embody abundance, gratitude, love, confidence, you attract circumstances that reflect those states. If you consistently embody fear, lack, limitation, you attract experiences that mirror those conditions. The law of assumption, they say, approaches the process from a different angle. Rather than focusing primarily on attraction, it focuses on identity. The central idea is that whatever you assume to be true, whatever you accept as already real within consciousness, eventually expresses itself in your external world. So, instead of attempting to attract a desired reality, you assume that the reality already exists. You think from the fulfilled desire rather than thinking of it. You occupy the state of the person who already has what they want, and the external world gradually reorganizes itself to reflect that inner assumption. So, which one is true? Is reality responding to your vibration? Is reality responding to your assumptions? Or are they simply different languages attempting to describe the same principle? That's exactly what we're going to explore in this video. Let's begin with the law of attraction. There is an assumption hidden within it. The assumption is that there is you over here and there is the thing you want over there. There is a separation. They also say that your dominant thoughts, emotions, beliefs, energetic state attract experiences that match them. But if that's true, we should ask, who is attracting what? And from where? If everything exists within one consciousness, one infinite field of possibilities, can anything truly be separate from you in the first place? Think about it. The moment you desire something, the experience of not having it and the experience of having it already exist within awareness. The mountain is already there. The only thing that changes is the perspective from which you are viewing it. So, manifestation may not be about attracting something that is absent. It may be about becoming aware of something that is already present. The law of attraction says that you must do something in order to get something. But what if reality is not some it's not responding to you. Or if reality is simply reflecting the perspective from which you're already viewing it. Because if everything exists now, then there is nothing to attract. There is only something to recognize, something to become aware of. Notice that your thoughts, emotions, do not create your perspective. They arise from your perspective. Imagine science proves something beyond any doubt. You accept it. Years later, new evidence appears and completely overturns the previous understanding. You become aware of something new, and instantly your entire relationship with that subject changes. The thoughts change, the emotions change, the beliefs change, let's say conclusions change. Everything changes automatically. Why? Because perspective changed first. The thoughts and feelings followed, not the other way around, as they say. So this is the foundation of what I teach. Your perspective is the creative factor. Your awareness is primary. Everything else is secondary. Thoughts arise from it. Emotions arise from it. Beliefs even arise from it. States arise from it. They are effects, not causes. And if that is true, then fear cannot create. Lack cannot create. Limitation cannot create. Negative thoughts cannot create because they are not the source. They are simply experiences appearing within awareness. You are the creator, not fear, not doubt, not anxiety, not limitation, okay? Those only have meaning and power you assign to them. Now, let's look at the law of assumption. The law of assumption says that whatever you assume to be true becomes your experience. And in many ways, this points closer to what we are discussing. Imagine someone who assumes that attractive people are selfish, dishonest, incapable of genuine love. Then one day, they meet an attractive person who treats them wonderfully. What happens? Most likely they won't see what is actually happening. They will reinterpret it. They will suspect hidden motives. They will wait for disappointment. And they will search for evidence that confirms their assumption. So the real power may not even be in assuming. The real power may be in recognizing that you are the awareness prior to both. The awareness from which every assumption arises, the awareness from which every belief arises, the awareness from which every interpretation arises. And when you understand that, manifestation stops being a process of getting. It becomes a process of seeing. Becoming aware of what was available all along. Let me give you an example. Imagine you receive a text message from someone you care about. The message says only, "We need to talk." Now notice something. The words themselves haven't changed, but one person immediately feels anxious. Their mind starts creating stories. Something is wrong, they're upset with me, this can't be good. Another person receives the exact same message and feels excited. Maybe they want to discuss our future together. The same words, the same circumstances. By the way, this is why they say that circumstances don't matter, they don't have built-in meaning. Did the thoughts create the perspective? Or did the perspective create the thoughts? The person who already assumes things usually go wrong automatically generates fearful thoughts. The person who assumes things usually work out automatically generates optimistic thoughts. So the thoughts are not the cause, as you see. The thoughts are the consequence. the perspective came first. And from that perspective, the thoughts, emotions, interpretations, reactions even emerged automatically. This happens every day in every area of life. A business owner sees an economic crisis and thinks this is the end. Another sees the same crisis and thinks this is where opportunities are created. A single person sees a rejection and thinks I'm not good enough. Another sees the same rejection and thinks that simply wasn't the right match. The event itself doesn't contain the meaning. The perspective gives it meaning. So, let's return to the question we asked at the beginning. Is reality responding to your vibration? Is reality responding to your assumptions? So, after everything we've discussed, I would suggest that both the law of attraction and the law of assumption are observing the same phenomenon. But the law of attraction looks at the thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and states that appear within consciousness and says, these are what create your experience, and you will attract something from the outside world. The law of assumption looks a little deeper and says, no, it is the assumption behind these thoughts and emotions that create your experience. But I would invite you to look even deeper still. What gives rise to the assumption? What gives rise to the belief? What gives rise to the emotional state? To the thoughts themselves? The answer is perspective, awareness. Take the text message example. One person receives a message and feels fear, another receives the same message and feels excitement. If the law of attraction is correct, we might say that the fearful thoughts create a fearful experience and the optimistic thoughts create a positive experience. If the law of assumption is correct, we might say that the assumption behind those thoughts is what creates the experience. But neither explanation goes all the way to the root. Where did the fearful assumption come from? Where did the optimistic assumption come from? Both arose from a particular perspective of reality. And the moment that perspective changes, the assumptions change, the thoughts change, the emotions change, the entire experience changes. Notice how this works in everyday life. A person who sees themselves as valuable naturally thinks different thoughts than someone who sees themselves as unworthy. The person who sees opportunities everywhere naturally feels different emotions than someone who sees obstacles everywhere, logically. A person who sees the world as friendly naturally interprets events differently than someone who sees the world as hostile. So, the perspective comes first. Everything else follows. This is why two people can live in the same city, work in the same industry, experience the same economy, and yet appear to live in completely different realities. So when people say your vibration creates your reality, they may be describing the effects of perspective. When people say your assumptions create your reality, they may be describing the effects of perspective. Neither statement is necessarily wrong, they are simply pointing to different layers of the same idea. It's like looking at a tree. One person points to the leaves, another points to the branches, but both are describing the tree. But neither has reached the root. And the root is awareness itself. The perspective from which reality is being viewed. Change the perspective, and assumptions, thoughts, emotions change automatically. Everything downstream reorganizes itself. This is why I don't see manifestation as a process of attracting something that isn't here, and I don't even see it primarily as a process of forcing new assumptions. I see it as becoming aware of a different version of reality that already exists within consciousness, already here, right now. And the moment that shift happens, the thoughts change naturally. The assumptions change naturally. And that is why the deepest question is not what should I think or what should I assume or even what vibration should I have. The deepest question is, from what perspective am I viewing reality right now? Like, honestly. Because everything else emerges from that. Who is asking these questions in the first place? Who wants to know whether reality responds to vibration? Who wants to know whether reality responds to assumptions? Who wants to know the exact mechanism behind everything? Usually, it is the character, my love, the human, the part of us that feels separate and wants to understand how to get something it currently believes it does not have. Think about it. When someone is struggling financially, they desperately want to know how manifestation works. When someone wants a relationship, they spend hours studying techniques, assumptions, vibration states, affirmations, methods, and so on. But what happens when they already have the thing? Do they spend all day wondering how to manifest a relationship? No. Do they constantly analyze how abundance is created? No. They are not sitting around trying to figure things out. The search for the method often comes from the perspective of not having. The search itself can sometimes reinforce the assumption that there is something to get, somewhere to arrive, something missing that needs to be obtained. But from the perspective of already having, the question disappears. So, the obsession with understanding usually appears when the experience seems absent. Because perhaps the deepest shift is not learning a better technique, not finding a better affirmation, not discovering even a more powerful assumption. Is recognizing the perspective from which the question itself is being asked. Is the question arising from lack or from wholeness? Is it arising from the belief that something is missing? Or is it arising from the recognition that what is sought is already present in a form not yet recognized? So, yeah, that's it for this one. I really went deep into this topic here, so feel free to listen to it in a few times if you need it. I may also upload shorter videos because maybe this is too much. Until then, bye for now. And if you want to go deeper or discuss your questions, your situation, I offer one-on-one coaching. So just write me an email from the description below and see you. Bye bye.